Well, it's certainly interesting times in the world of Counter-Strike with the Valve ranking system hitting us like 1,000 slaps and what is it? It's coming to February and we already know that teams like ENCE, fnatic, NIP will have a really tough time making it to the Austin Major that starts in June. In what is that? 4 months. It's 4 months until the major, and we have these high brand organizations with decent teams, promising teams that will have a really hard time making it to the major. Why do we know this already in late January? Alright, let's back off a little bit and look at some important dates here. The most important one being April the 7th. Well, that's a handy countdown timer. In 66 days, the invites to the major and the MRQ stages will be sent. That gives us full 2 months of play, those months being February and March, to teams to rack up points as much as they can to be able to ensure that they can make it to the major or at least make it to the MRQs, which are these regional qualifiers for the upcoming major. You can think of these sort of as the RMRs. We don't exactly know if these will be held online or offline, as we can see here from Liquipedia. We don't know yet. I think the safe bet is to say that these will be held online, unfortunately, to save costs, but it is what it is. Let's just look at Europe, for example, because these are the teams that I'll be diving into more in this video. So the teams ranked 11 to 26th in Europe will be able to make it to the MRQ, and only 6 teams out of these 16 teams will be able to make it to the major. So it's a 32-team major with 16 slots being allocated to Europe. It's tough times. It's tough times, let me tell you that. Let's look at the Europe ranking right here. And ENCE, for example, ENCE is ranked 24th right now. So they're just about to make the cutoff if they can hang on to that coveted top 26 ranking. But certainly you have teams above of them, which are a little bit questionable. I guess in the Valve rankings, we still have Navi Javelin. And I believe this team has already been let go, so does this team even exist? Are they getting the invite before ENCE? A lot of questions ahead of this tournament. We have Nexus, a very egregious example of a team who's way ahead in the rankings, who really shouldn't be here, and they're only here because of winning this IESF World Championship with no real teams. It's these national teams that aren't real teams, but Nexus was able to win it. They got 100k out of that, and that boosted them way ahead in the rankings. But look at this lineup. They didn't even beat any crazy good teams. They didn't beat any top 50 teams. But this gives them a ranking of being in the top 20 in Europe, which is crazy. That's crazy. That shouldn't be the case. They're ranked 16 in Europe. My God, I don't know how that was real. So ENCE, just about to make it. fnatic are ranked 32, so they aren't in the top 26 right now in Europe, even though their team is decent. And if you just think about their level of play in the past 6 months, they haven't been great, but you'd think that they should be in the MRQ at least. But now they're in a tough spot. How are they gonna make it? And lastly, we're going to look at NIP, and this is maybe one of the more interesting points here, because you can look at this ranking here, 38, that's bad, right? It's even worse. It's even worse because this isn't NIP's current team. These points are allocated to these players, but the NIP's current lineup with Snapisius, the 2 Portuguese guys, and Wrinkle, their world ranking is... I don't know. I think HLTV is flipping out here because this isn't their world ranking. I think they might be unranked. Maybe someone can tell me if I'm wrong in this, but are they even ranked in the world ranking with this 5-man unit? I don't know. But that's just, I guess, a microcosm of things right now. A lot of question marks in the air. Who's where? Who should be where? And these teams they're going to have a really tough time making it. And this is why. Look at the calendar here. You have only a couple of events that are gonna count. Katowice, obviously, these sort of teams like NIP, fnatic, and ENCE, they weren't able to make it. Cluj-Napoca, they aren't here either. They They aren't even in EPL this season. Then the last full event that's gonna count is Blast Open. So here you're gonna have a slight chance to make it here because there are just a few slots that come from open qualifiers essentially, which are these rising events. Even this is mega hard. It's an open qualifier in different locations in Europe, from which you make it to the closed qualifier, which will have some teams that are coming from the Valve regional rankings. So these are probably teams like Fnatic and ENCE, but only 4 slots to the main event. So you're gonna really have to fight your way through to the main event and then try to get 1 or 2 decent wins out of this. So this is maybe the best path for these sort of teams like ENCE and Fnatic, and maybe even NIP. And then you got the Tier 2 circuit running through the forthcoming CCT events, which there will be, I think, 4, 17, 18, you got number 19, you got number 20. These $50,000 online tournaments, which at this moment have pretty decent teams, because these are some of the only events that you're going to be able to play through to get those Valve ranking points. And so you've got ENCE here, straight to the playoffs. You got Fnatic here. You even got Heroic here, which is pretty surprising. But even they are fighting for those few Valve points to get to the further stages of the major. And tough news for NIP, because they missed out on their first slot to make it into one of these only tournaments that they're gonna able to play. Losing to Fireflux. They didn't make it to the CCT Season 17 because of Fireflux and Banjo fragging out. Love to see that, but awful for NIP here. So this means NIP has a pretty slim chance of making it to the major. I don't know. I don't know. There definitely are still big issues, I feel like, with the Valve ranking system. I don't think we should be at this point in the end of January, where we already know that some solid teams will have a really tough road to make it to the major. I feel like this hasn't been the case in the past. You've always had the chance of making it through some system right before the major, but now the cutoff is 2 months before the major. It's really close. You really have to grind out these tournaments throughout February and March to even get a chance of making it through. Really tough times for some really good teams right now. I mean, it's all good if you are in the, let's say, in the top 15 of the Valve ranking. You're pretty set. You can like coast through. Even if you're in the top 20, you keep getting invited to PGL's events and through the main stages of those bigger events. But the difference is humongous, whether you're ranked 20th or you're ranked, whatever, 33rd. A team ranked 33rd is really screwed right now. And obviously you can say like, it's your own fault for falling into that sort of a place, but I don't know, is it? And at this point, I don't feel like Valve ranking system has really solved anything for right now. Maybe things will get better in the future. They probably will get better with the coming up seasons, but this first season with the Valve ranking system, really tough. Some teams will have a really sad ending to their season very early on already. In early April, they'll know that this season will be all for nothing. So I don't know. I'm not too happy about the situation we're in, but let's see how Valve keeps evolving with this system, how they keep modifying it to try to make it better, because better they have to make it.